Yeah, and Deshaun Foster at UCLA. Again, like I said in the previous video before it cut off, is UCLA does have a lot of potential, right? And I think they're going to need a coach that, I mean, has ties but understands that potential. And if it's not, someone who has connections to the UCLA football program. I mean, you look at a guy like a PJ Fleck or a guy like a Dan Mullen. We know Dan Mullen's a winner. He can win. The guy knows how to score points. He can put up a lot of yards. Uh, has a spread out his spread attack offense, which he learned under Urban Meyer years ago at Florida. Um, I mean, I think those are appealing options, and you hear names that I don't think should be in there, like a Spencer Danielson at Boise State. Look, he's a good coach, right? But he still doesn't have a lot of experience, right? There's a lot of unknown with that. And then there's a guy that I think I heard someone throw his name around earlier, and he's the head coach of Fresno State, Matt Entz. Matt Entz is a winner. He is a winner. The guy built North Dakota State into a powerhouse. I mean, North Dakota State's always been a power long before he was there, but he knows that culture, that physical, hard nosed, control the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball, physical downhill running game, I formation, run it down your throat, take the air out of the ball, that kind of approach. And plus his Big Ten, he's got so many Midwest ties, right? He's from the Midwest, and he knows you got to recruit the Midwest. And you're not just recruiting the West Coast now. I mean, you're in the Big Ten. So you got to compete against a lot of these Big Ten schools. And I think that's the one thing that hurts UCLA. I think their crosstown rival USC gets away with it because, like I said, it's USC, right? The tradition is so much more tradition in football than UCLA football. So anyone wants to, right, looks at USC like, oh, you want to go there. But obviously, I think UCLA has to stay in their lane. They don't have the resources. They don't have the financial budget. They definitely don't have the NIL. So I think they need a coach who understands that, accepts that, and gets the most out of what they have to work with. And I think that all starts at the high school level. Again, there's a ton of great high school football programs in California. It's the biggest state in the country. It's the longest state in the country. Um, there's so many great elite high school programs, and you just got to go out, hit the recruiting trail, find these guys, try to win them over. Say, you know what, it's UCLA. I know it's not USC. This blah blah blah. Uh, but tell them, look, you're still going to get an unbelievable education. You're going to set yourself up for major success even after if you do have an NFL career. Because a lot of these kids in high school, they want to go to the NFL, right? That's their goal. Whatever, I understand that, but UCLA is a world class school, world class institution. You're going to have a lot of opportunities living in Pasadena. You're going to meet a lot of great people. You're going to have so many, whatever. It's UCLA, right? So Southern California again. It's all location, location, location. So I don't think they're going to have a hard time with that. But the question is the things that are working against them, right? Some people aren't a fan of the AD of Martin Jarman, so there's so many little minute factors. And again, the NIL from everything I hear is very bad. Maybe one of the worst situations in the Big Ten, which is not good, not good. So they gotta find a way to invest, right? They got to get people, big time, whatever, celebrities, donors, business people like this, whatever you need. But you got to invest in that because unfortunately, players want to get paid today, and that's going to attract the big players. You see the quarterback situation. Heck, there's a chance. I think once you lose your coach, right, whether he's fired, you have a 30-day window, right, to transfer. That's crazy. That's chaotic. So Nico, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Nico Amiaviava, whatever his name is, I completely butchered it. So he has a chance one day to be a starting quarterback UCLA. Next week, he could be a Northwestern in the Big Ten, throwing it 70-yard touchdown in the back of the end zone, beating Purdue, whatever. I mean, how crazy is college football getting? It just blows my mind. But my point is, UCLA needs to find a coach who understands these things. Yes, I mean, Deshaun Foster, he seems like a great guy, right? Understood it. He accepted it. He was only in year two, but I think you could tell he's being outcoached. Every game he was in, he's thoroughly being dominated, outcoached. I think it's a lack of experience, right? I think Deshaun Foster's a very smart guy, but I think he's got a lot of room to grow, right? There's a lot more he needs to learn about being in the head coach. But look, I think I think he did a pretty solid job. So he took on a tough transition as their first year last year in the Big Ten. So obviously they had a lot of growing pains, but I think, 2 years seems like it's a quick time, but I think UCLA didn't have a choice. It was trending in the wrong direction. I think since the moment they made this hire, I don't think it was the right hire, but who cares what I think? I think UCLA now has a chance to get this right, and do that for their fan base and their alumni, their supporters. But I think UCLA has a chance to have a ton of success. I think Dan Mullen will be a very good fit at UCLA because of his extensive background. He's coached at two Power Five, or I keep calling it Power Five. It's now Power Four at Mississippi State and Florida. His offenses are always elite. They can spread it out and put up a lot of points and a lot of yards. And they play with a pretty good tempo. Maybe not Rich Rod fast at West Virginia or Chip Kelly back in the day at Oregon or even Scott Frost at UCF his first time around, but they still play with pretty decent tempo, right? I think UCLA needs a coach like that. They need a coach like Dan Mullen. I think Dan Mullen, obviously the guy's more than enough money, so I don't think he'd be doing it for record-breaking pay. I mean, but a guy like Dan Mullen could energize a fan base. He seems like he could be pretty charismatic, right? Pretty charismatic. Some people call him odd, but I think the guy could be charismatic, and I think he has a good way with people, and I think he knows how to win people over. I think people look at Dan Mullen and say, I like that guy. I root for him. It's like Cousin Eddie in Christmas Vacation, right? So right now he's the head coach at UNLV, and obviously he's 3-0. He's off to a good start, but I think that'd be a very good starting point for UCLA. So again, that's really what they need: someone who can energize a fan base, someone who's got big name recognition. Because you're not going to get Nick Saban. You're not going to get Urban Meyer. You're not going to get these big fish in the water, right? So you got to stick to what you have to work with. And I think a guy like Dan Mullen will be a very good starting point for UCLA because I think he could embrace all those things. I think he has that kind of personality. I think he's good with people. He'd be a little quirky, a little awkward, but I think the guy, he could be very personable, very charming when he chooses to be. And I think UCLA needs a guy like that. They need a guy like that who can shake things up a little bit, right? A guy who doesn't seem like he's very demanding with regards to being a prima donna, saying, I need $100 million for NIL. I think he knows that through his connections and influences that he can help aid in that. But also UCLA's got to focus starting to build their program at the high school level, right? Especially a place like UCLA. They got to start with high school recruiting and fill out their roster from within, right? And that's the way they're going to have success. Stick to what you do. You can't be big. You can't be the other school across town at USC. USC has night and day more resources than them. I think for UCLA, they're going to be successful in football. They got to start at the ground roots, start at the high school level, hit the ground. There's so many elite national power high school football programs right in that 20-mile radius. You can find all your players in there. You may not get all of them. You may not get most of them. But I think that's why you need a guy like Dan Mullen, a guy who's worked with Tim Tebow, who's been with so many great players, and Dak Prescott at Mississippi State. The guy has a lot of connections, and I think he could help energize a fan base at UCLA, and they're in desperate need of it. I think he would be the first guy that they should target. But again, not my decision. So I think that would be a very great hire for them. But again, that's up to them. He's doing really good at UNLV, and but I think that would make perfect sense. So again, I hope that's good enough insight. It's my first time doing this, so hope everyone's doing good. All right, you have a great night.